Welcome back to Trinity Point. And right now we're losing a couple of thousand quid. But by and large, this town has been a success lately. There's a strange light here. What time is it? It's 5:20 p.m. This rather impressive building in the center here, this is a mega tower that I haven't really built any mega towers in quite a while, but I decided to put one here just to kind of think it might help with the tourists, and it looks like a very nice tourist attraction. This is called the Elite Tower, and it's only for medium to high wealth Sims. The one I put over here, and you can see the great thing about these is they're very visible. Look at that, the one in the distance is the one in Norwich Hills, and that tower is slightly different. It's more for low wealth to medium wealth Sims. I've got things on slow speed here at the moment. I'm just having a look around. I've got 1, 2, 3 spread out little ferries, which I think maybe is a better idea than putting them all together. Otherwise, the really great thing about this place is that I have managed to have success not with just one of the difficult, elegant casinos, but with 2 of them. And if I just go into the tourist map, you'll see that this place is really excellent for these top-end casinos, because it's just so full of high wealth. There doesn't seem to be any medium or low wealth here. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's a bug or if this is just a particular little detail of Trinity Point that they were trying to get people to build those type of casinos here. I don't know. It seems odd that there isn't any other tourists. It really does. I would imagine it's more a bug than a deliberate ploy by the makers of the game. But I don't really care. In fact, I'm quite happy with it, because it is only the high wealth people that are going to keep this hotel going, and it's doing pretty well at the moment. We know how hard these things are to keep running at any kind of a profit, so to have them both in profit is quite an achievement for me. And a little earlier on, they were both making great. They were doing great figures. This one was making over 200,000 in profit a day, and this one was doing 180. So when they do get working, they are very lucrative. Just when I'm here, I'm going to, if I have room, I'm going to lose a hotel, but never mind. Just give that a bit of an extension. More often than not lately, I'm making money here, which is good. And I'm reasonably confident that this town now is becoming independent and is not going to need any more bailouts from anywhere else. I'm pretty confident that the rich folks are going to keep coming here. I may try to put another of the difficult casinos in, because that would be a real achievement if I was able to get 3 of these things running. I also really like the look of this mega tower. And they can make you money, mega towers, but I'm losing money with this one at the moment, and I haven't really used mega towers for a long time, and I don't remember ever figuring out how to make money off these things. I always kind of lost money with them, and so my main aim of making them was not really to make any money. It was because they look kind of cool. They also have this nice addition where they futurize the surrounding areas, so the road has got this nice kind of glowing light in the middle, and the surfaces and the textures are slightly different than the other roads. And you can see beside it, it's got one of these. This again is a kind of futurized Blade Runner type building. Not one I'd like to live in. If I speed things up, the population is slowly rising. It's I've kind of upgraded a few roads around certain areas, and that's good. You can see there the way the lights, the way the streets are all lit up because of this building. I like that's a nice feature. Education wise, I'm not doing as well as I'd like. I don't know why. I mean, the map says that everybody more or less is educated. I think there's enough room here. But let's see if I can add in another school of something or other, which is this one actually is the best one. I think it helps the industries and stuff. Let's see if I can. Perfect. That should also increase the amount of students who can go here. I've got a school here. I guess I could put another school in somewhere as well, because I'd really like to get this. It's not really good enough to be 1,000 short. And I'll just do a little experiment. I don't have a high school, and perhaps you're meant to have a high school. So I'm gonna put this high school in here. In terms of crime, no crimes a day and 5 criminals at large. That's good enough, because at one point here I was having serious problem with crime. I had to actually put in another police precinct, which I'm not running it now because I've got one here. But that's fine. 5 criminals at large is okay. How many buildings have we lost here? 2. 1, 2. And yeah, like I say, when it gets to this point, it seems to be sufficiently successful to run itself. And although occasionally I'm losing money, I'm making a lot more than I'm losing, I think. Which means that after that, all you really need to do is keep an eye on things like the water, the sewage, things like this, the electricity, and you should be okay. Maybe I've spoke too soon, because that's quite a that's a hell of a loss each hour. That's a minus 40,000 an hour. And then plus 23. There does seem to be an awful lot of traffic from traffic on the water, an awful lot of boats coming and going. That's good. I've got quite a good road system, I think, and I've got a few buses. And I'm so pleased that this thing is doing well. And you can see the big tower in the background. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. The other thing I would probably add in here at some point is one of the bigger tourist attractions, one of the bigger landmarks. Some of these things can cost quite a lot. For instance, you've got the Empire State Building, and that costs $500,000. You've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is not as much, 280 grand. So I think we've got the Arc de Triomphe, which is 280. I may add, these are more expensive landmarks, but they may bring in more tourists, and I may do that at a later date. I could also add another runway to the airport, but I've never really found that to have much of an effect. Otherwise, let's add another tower here. What have I got now? I've got 6. I've got a mile level for me. What does it say? Needs more shoppers. Well, let's just give them more shoppers. So this thing is getting to its capacity. I can only add 8 floors. You can see this little ferry terminal seems to be very busy. I could also add in at some point an expo center or the pro stadium. This thing needs a lot of space, but that's quite a nice feature if you're doing a tourist town. I like the look of these Roman look casinos as well. I like the pink lights and the architecture on these buildings is quite nice. I don't know if all of these buildings are actually modelled on, I have a feeling they're all modelled on actual buildings around the world, just like the landmarks are all actual landmarks. They all actually they all exist. And I think it's the same with all the other buildings. Sometimes I've been watching documentaries about various cities in the United States, and occasionally I will see buildings and I'll recognize them from some of the buildings that I've been kind of used to seeing in the Sims game. Same thing with university. I'm sure it's modeled after an actual university. Which reminds me, are we getting to any more students? Well, I guess it's early in the day. $600 students, 500. Funny, there doesn't seem to be any students in these. There's 3 buildings here, which each hold. They each hold, I don't know how many, maybe 500 students. Anyway, I'll hope that the number of educated students goes up, because if it doesn't, this figure may. Actually, the crime figures in this little town have been really, really good ever since the big kind of outbreak I had at earlier on in the game, when I had to put in the extra precinct, and since then the figures have been very, very good. My mega tower now is so big I can hardly see the top of it. So that's the 7th floor. I think now all I can put on is, alright, so I can put on an 8th. I can put on an 8th floor, and then I put the top on. So let's put those. That's a high wealth apartment block. This is going to be visible from everywhere after this building session. I've also started one over in Clear Water. Is it Clear Water? That's it there. So you can see how much these difficult casinos can make when you get them running properly. This is making over 200,000 a day now, and this one is making over 200 a day as well, compared with this one. This is just 23. This one is 47. I get the feeling the demand is very high. Well, not at the moment there. Or there. Well, I think what's happening, what's making them so successful, is that all the high wealth tourists, they're using the hotel rooms to stay for a couple of days, and then when they're not in their hotel rooms, they go straight to the casinos. They're not just leaving. They're not leaving the hotels and heading off. And I think when you get a situation where the tourists are staying in the hotels, then they're more likely perhaps to continually make a profit. cost. I'm just guessing that. Let's change this to the bigger, because my money seems to be doing okay, to the bigger arc, the Triumph, which is here. I was always very impressed with this. The lighting on it and everything is fantastic. So perhaps now I can just finish this tower, because it's 8 levels now. You can't go any higher than 8 levels. But what I can do now is put a tower which can be an elite tourism crown, which attracts tourists to the region. That would seem to be the thing. And this costs, it's quite expensive, 300,000, and you also have to pay 5,000 an hour. So these elite towers, they do make money, but mega towers. But you can see at the moment it's costing me 15,000 to keep running, and it's making 13, so I'm making a loss. And you need to keep an eye on that, because if this figure completely drops, and let's say you're making 200, you can find yourself making a loss of 15 to 20,000 on the thing very quickly. And these things have bankrupted many a town, so you need to kind of keep an eye on them. And at some point it might be the thing, you might have to just switch it all off. So that's what that tower looks like. You can see it's making all the other places look very small. Let me just go up here. That gives you an idea of how big the elite tower is. Not sure if I don't prefer the other tower, which is more for the medium and low wealth sims, more than this one. I don't know which one I prefer. So I can still add in some more famous landmarks. I could put the Pro Stadium somewhere. The Pro Stadium is an interesting thing, because it's a little tricky to make a success of that as well. But I think in a place like this, it might be interesting to see how it would work. Otherwise everything seems to be doing well. I'm making quite a big profit there now, 54,000. The only thing about this tower that's a bit kind of odd is it kind of makes everything else look a bit weird for a while. You have to get used to the size of the mega tower. That's an interesting looking building. Medium wealth. Interesting. The interesting thing here as well is that it doesn't seem to be too busy in terms of traffic. Maybe that's one of the advantages of doing the boats, that you gain most of your tourists are coming by the water and they're leaving the same way, which perhaps frees up the roads. I can't remember whether I put in a bus terminal here or not. I would have thought I would have put a bus terminal somewhere. No, perhaps not. Well, I think a bus terminal is something I should install. Where could I put that? Let's put it here. I'm not sure the overall benefit of these buses at this point. I know at the beginning they're quite handy to have one of these, because you can really kind of get people to transfer from one town to another. Anyway, I guess it can't hurt. Got some space here to put something as well. But I think overall I'm quite happy with this place now. It does seem to be doing okay at the moment. I think I could reasonably confident I could let this game run now for a while, and I wouldn't run into too much money problems. The only thing I'd need to be careful of is the problems you might get with electricity problems or water problems or sewage problems, things like that. But otherwise it seems to be self-sufficient. What I'd like to try maybe is just to push the tourism a little bit, put another one of those complicated elegant hotels in and see if that would also make a profit. That might drive the profits up, but of course if you overdo it, you can end up destroying the profitability of the city. But yeah, it seems to be doing fine at the moment. And I've got just a 90% approval rating. Education is still not budging. I don't know why that is. I'm doing everything I can to try and get this figure up, and it says that there's an awful lot of students not enrolled. I don't know why that is. and my crime rates are starting to go up. So if that keeps going up, I may need to reopen the other police precinct. But that's for another day. But I think for now I shall leave this episode here on this kind of good note. With everything kind of going well at the moment, I won't hang around too much because things can change very quickly. But at the moment, well, you can see by the streets here that let me reduce the speed. At the moment we are doing something right, because we seem to be getting a hell of a lot of tourists in. And the money seems to be pretty consistently in the profit margins now. The last time I looked, I had 1.5 million, and now I've got 2,200,000. So it's looking very well. I hope that at some point Clearwater will be doing as well as this town. But for now, on these on that positive note, and with the figures looking quite positive, I should say adios.